Saludos and salutations, Broncos Country, and welcome to another exciting episode of Broncos Talk. Today, we are going to recap the another heartbreaking loss, mind you, that we had against the Kansas City Chiefs in round one. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it still hurts so many days later, and it's going to hurt for the rest of the season, probably forever, in my honest opinion. I'm still not over it. What we have forward going to looking ahead against the Atlanta Falcons, ladies and gentlemen, who are coming home to Denver to play a pissed off Broncos team. And the subject of today's show is Bo Nix. Well, actually, has Bo Nix fulfilled the prophecy that has been a question that has been asked so long in Broncos country? Has he fulfilled that prophecy? Ladies and gentlemen, we have all that and so much more. So please stay tuned because here we go. Welcome back in, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Adan Diaz, and I am the owner and proprietor of said Broncos Talk Show. Thank you guys for joining us. Before we get started with any and all things Broncos related, we have to get a couple of things out of the way. If this is your first time tuning in, please make sure you have that cold beer open, those chips flowing, whatever it is you're having for dinner. If you're listening to this, or whenever it is you're listening to the show, if you're munching on having something, please make sure you have it nice and handy and have plenty of it because we have a lot to get a hold and talk to about in today's show. If you guys joined us last week, it was a combination show of the Nothing Rhymes With and Broncos Talk that was just merged together, and it was the Nothing Rhymes With Broncos Talk. It was amazing. It was the first time I got to sit down with Johnny Bakke, and well, actually, I sit down with Johnny Bakke a lot of times, but together as like one entity, if that makes sense. You know, that whole thing sounded a whole lot better in my head. I'm not gonna lie to you. See, this is what I love about this show. Everything is unedited, and I make the stuff out the top of my head. Can't go back and record like I could before. But anyways, guys, if you're listening to us on the audio, after the fact, if you're not able to join us live, please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, hit that little bell notification, wherever it is you guys get your podcast from, so you get up-to-date info on every single episode that comes out after every stream. For those of you joining us on the live, however, make sure you hit that like, subscribe button here on the Orange and Blue Network. Subscribe, share, comment, and like. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a simulcast show, just like most, if not all, the shows here on the Orange and Blue Network. Now, you might be asking yourself, what the hell does that mean? I've never heard of it. And before you go and ask Google, I'm going to tell you what it is. So basically, a simulcast means that this show is airing not just on the Orange and Blue Network, ladies and gentlemen. I said blue, not boot. Orange and Blue Network, but the MHRT network as well. So please make sure you like and subscribe and share, comment and like on all their videos. Make sure you show them some love. So that basically means that this show is airing at the same time on both the MHRT and Orange and Blue networks. Technology is so amazing, isn't it? I mean, being able to be on two shows at once, I'm telling you, couldn't have asked for anything better. So please make sure you like and subscribe and share for them on all their channels. Tell them that your boy 610 sent you. And even if they don't know who I am, just make sure you show your love anyway. For any business inquiries, you can email at broncostalk2020@gmail.com. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter /X, you can hit me up on at a 6'10" Mexican. Right there on the bottom, I'm always down and happy to talk about any and all things football. Of course, normally I'm joined by my co-host, Ty, the fantasy guy. He will be back soon, ladies and gentlemen. I can guarantee you that. Ty, we love you. We miss you. We have you in our thoughts. Get well soon, my friend. We cannot wait to have you back in the Orange and Blue Network and MHRT as well. And before we forget, we'd like to thank today's sponsor of today's show, which is Dubby. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've never heard of Dubby, it's okay. I'm going to tell you about it. So W is an energy drink. They have so many flavors that you're going to see scrolling across the screen right now. If you're able to join us live, they have Galaxy Grenade. They have this the apple, the green apple. So many flavors, guys. So basically, W is an energy, like a I don't want to say supplement. It's an energy blend. I don't know why the word escaped me. They have so many delicious flavors, and it's a lot better than those energy drinks that you guys are more than likely used to drinking, or anything with an espresso shot or soda, or just, all that bad stuff that they tell you about. And what do I mean by bad stuff? Well, basically, W was formulated to give you focus and energy with no jitters or crash. Their formula contains vitamins, amino acids, and nootropics, including the patented neurofactor formula. It's got no calories, no sugar, no maltodextrin, no fillers, and no artificial colors. So it's the energy that you need without all the bad stuff in it. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just like me, where you're always on the go because you're working, you're podcasting, or whatever it is you're doing in your everyday lives, and you just need that energy boost without all the negative side effects, make sure you go out and get yourself a couple of the W supplements and filters. I keep saying supplements. I don't know why. Energy blends. And thanks again to W for being a sponsor, not just on Broncos Talk, but all over the Orange and Blue Network. So make sure you guys go out and get your energy blend. See, I remember that time today. So now that we got all that stuff out of the way, ladies and gentlemen, I have been spending the last 2 days, if I can be, look me in the eyes right here. It's just me and you, okay? I have been spending the last 2-3 days trying not to come out here and literally the first word out of my mouth is going to be the F-bomb. Okay, because that was literally the first word that came out of my mouth when I was watching that game while I was at work. And if Johnny would have told me to come on the show that same day, there's no way I could have done this show without swearing. No effing chance. And not just irregular, like small curse words. This was F-bomb and whatever else categories up there, because that's just where my heart is, or where it was. It just sank. It was the Titanic. It was the Hindenburg. It was any national catastrophe tragedy that you can think of. That's what that was. And I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one in Broncos country that felt that way. The Broncos literally had the Chiefs number for 3 and however many minutes were like 4. What was it? The 14:59, I want to say. For 3 quarters and 14:59 minutes, the Broncos had the Chiefs beat. And all they needed to do was kick a field goal. And unfortunately, Alex Forsyth, however you pronounce his last name, at this point, I don't really care, got beaten at the point of attack. Just like, as we found out through social media, he's been getting beat a lot over the last couple of games. We just haven't never paid attention until now. And it sucks. It sucks that the Broncos lost to the Kansas City Chiefs by a field goal because of a missed field goal at that. It wasn't because of Will Lutz, because if Will Lutz would have shanked that kick, we'd be having a whole different conversation right now. To me, and I've listened to a whole bunch of podcasts from now until then. I know you guys hear me say that all the time, but it's true. I've listened to every single Broncos podcast I could find just to see if I was the only one that felt a certain way about this. And I couldn't get a definite answer from the other ones. I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you. But as I always say to you guys, when I remember anyway, because I'm getting old, when I say to you guys at the end of every telecast, always go out and show your support for Broncos Country. Okay, there's a lot of Broncos podcasts out there, not just on the Orange and Blue and MHRT networks. There's articles out there. There's plenty of information to keep you afloat, especially during the off season. But for me, if I was Sean Payton on that third down, instead of having Bo Nix just go and switch, what do you do? Switch the hashes or whatever, which wasn't a bad move. It was a good move because it would have gave Will Lutz more kicking leverage or whatever you want to call it. But I would have went for it. And I know I'm probably the only person that's gonna think that way, and that's perfectly fine. But I would have tried to make a play for it. Just for the simple and Spagnuolo, if I'm not mistaken, I read, I don't know if it's actually real or if somebody said it, but Spagnola actually told his guys to let Denver score. Because if they let Denver score, they would have given the ball back to Patrick Mahomes, and then Patrick Mahomes was going to try to march down the field with little time left. And me, I trusted our defense. I would have trusted our defense if that was the game plan. If they would have let Cortland Sutton catch in midfield and then just literally stroll in, I would have been okay with that. As long as it didn't come down to, having them kick a field goal. Because Patrick Mahomes only scored one touchdown on our Broncos defense. One. And that was on a lucky play against our defender who slipped. By the way, that turf at Arrowhead is effing garbage. Okay? It's effing garbage. The fact that the Broncos and Chiefs had to play after somebody had already else played, I think it was a college game that played before there, and that field looked like total crap. It was anything short of a miracle that there were no serious injuries to anybody where somebody had to get carted away. I know Worthy got hurt, but that was due to a shoulder injury because of a missed pass he tried to get. So as I was going to come on here and talk to you guys, by the way, there's a very special announcement towards the end of the show again, just like not last week. Was it 2 weeks ago? Yeah, 2 weeks ago. It's just basically gonna come down to, I don't know, like for some of the channels that I've listened to, ladies and gentlemen, there were a lot of fingers to blame. Some people were blaming Sean Payton for kind of taking his foot off the pedal in the second half, which I kind of agree with, because in the first half, the Broncos had the Chiefs number. They honestly did. And the fact that Will Lutz tried to hit, what was it, a 60-something yard field goal, gave me a flashback to when McMahon is convinced Nathaniel Hackett to go for it in Seattle week 1 and 2 years ago. And he completely shanked it. Wide left. Or right or whatever. That's what I got the feeling of. But a part of me was really hoping that Will Lutz could kick the crap out of that field goal where he could go for 80 yards. And if Cortland Sutton would have made that catch, that was 3 points on the board. Given that Forsyth wasn't out there trying to block. Which is just, oh, Jesus Christ, it just hurts to say it. It really hurts. And the Broncos are going to play the Chiefs again, but not till week 18. In what's more than likely going to be a meaningless game for Kansas City. Maybe not for Denver. Denver's definitely going to be making the playoffs. I guarantee you that much. Seeding, if they have to play seeding in terms of, can the Broncos get a higher seed week 18, then we'll definitely see the starters out there. And they're more than likely going to pummel. It's going to be like a preseason game against Kansas City. If you do see Mahomes and the starters out there, it might be just for like a quarter or something. And then they come out. Maybe not even that much, just to keep them from getting rust. But we've all seen in week 18, a lot of teams, when they rest their starters, is just an extra bye week. So to me, that kind of takes it away in terms of, I'll give you a perfect example. If you guys watched the Nothing Rhymes With show yesterday with Johnny Baki and Isaiah Henderson, Johnny made a comment where he says he loves to play Madden, but he's not good at it. I'm in the same boat as Johnny. I like to play Madden. I enjoy it, but I'm not good at it competitively. Now, I'm in a league with my brother, and 2 of my best friends, and my cousin, and 1 of my other friends. 3 of us are complete noobs. We don't know what the hell we're doing, and we're in the same division. We're in the AFC East. My brother, my cousin, and my best friend are Madden pros. They know how to do audible. They know how to do all that fancy stuff. They're in a whole different league themselves. They're in the NFC East. So when the first time we did the league, something happened. There was like a glitch or something, and then we couldn't get my friend back in, so we had to restart the league. Now I played the first. I signed up as the Jets, and I played my first game against New England, and I got demolished. AI completely wrecked me. So I'm like, great, we get a restart. That means we get to do it again. So I learned from my mistakes. When I got wrecked by New England, I lost to Drake May. When we played it again, my cousin traded for Drake May. He was the Cowboys, and he gave them Dak Prescott, and I don't know what players he got from. I know he got Drake May, but I think he got somebody else. So when I played New England and I was getting ready to beat them, imagine my surprise when I saw Dak Prescott running out to the field instead of Drake May. My revenge was ruined, is my point, ladies and gentlemen. And that's probably what's going to happen to Denver when they play week 18. It's going to be the Chiefs. Andy Reid's going to be there, but Patrick Mahomes and Kelsey and all those other guys more than likely won't suit up. So a win again, I'm not taking anything away from a win because a win is a win, regardless of who's out there. However, the revenge game was supposed to be against Patrick Mahomes. So that means that the Broncos are going to have to go into the playoffs and work their way up from a wild card spot to get their hands on Kansas City again. If Kansas City even makes it as far as to the AFC Championship game, which is a whole nother story. But in order for us to be faithful, faithful. I don't know if that's the right word. We have to keep the faith. And that's something that I'll admit as a Broncos fan, I have a hard time doing when we lose. Okay. Especially, I thought last week's game against the Ravens was worse. This one hurt more than the Ravens loss. I got over the loss against the Ravens maybe like a day and a half. It's been what? It is Wednesday, November 13th, 3 days after that game, and that still hurts. I don't know why. Probably because it's the Chiefs, and I hate Patrick Mahomes, and I hate anybody wearing Chiefs colors or Chargers colors or Raiders because that's what we're instilled as football fans. And they hate us, which is fine. That's what makes a rivalry a rivalry. The hate between two teams. I'll even go before we get to the comments. I just want to share one story. I know I'm talking too much, ladies and gentlemen, but unfortunately, that's probably one of the bad things about me is sometimes I talk a lot and I don't know when to shut up. But I don't know if I told this story on the show before, but when I was in Vegas earlier this year, I went to go see the Raiders game. So I was staying at the Rio. And when I went to the parking garage, because I'm pretty sure in all the hotels in Vegas, the rideshare, you can't just go to the front of the hotel to get the rideshare. Only taxis are allowed there. Every hotel has like a designated area, but 9 times out of 10, it's just a parking garage. So I go to the parking garage, and when I got there, there was a Raiders fan there. So obviously he was going to the game just like I was going to the game because it was week 18. It's a meaningless game against the Raiders and the Broncos that day. And we didn't know each other. We've never seen each other before. But as soon as we saw each other, like, I wanted to say something, but I'm like, nah, I'm going to try to be the bigger person. Not literally, of course. And he just turned around and he was like, yeah, we're going to kick y'all ass today. And then we just started going at it. We just started talking stuff. Now, mind you, I'm not paying attention. When I thought my Uber showed up, the guy said, Alan. I thought he said Adon. So I get in there and I'm talking smack to the guys I'm getting in my Uber. I'm not even looking to see if it's the color that's in my phone or if it's the license plate like you're supposed to. I just got in this guy's car just talking smack. I even lowered the window, and as I was going around in a circle around him, I was still talking smack. Just for the simple fact, because that's what rivalry does. That's what football does to us. And it wasn't until the driver saw me in all my Broncos gear, and he's like, are you going to the game? I'm like, yeah. So why are we wearing all this stuff? He's like, oh, well, I have it on here going to Coca-Cola World. I'm like, Coca-Cola World? I ain't going to no damn Coca-Cola World. And then he looked at it. He's like, aren't you? I forgot the name of the person. I'm like, no. Oh, Alan. No, I'm like, no, my name is Adon, A-D-A-N. He's like, oh, man, you're not my guy. So he turned around and he goes, and Thankfully, we were still in the parking lot, so he just a quick U-turn and dropped me off. And as an Uber driver myself, that's really embarrassing because I always have to make sure that the people that get in my car are the right people that I'm supposed to pick up. So, but because I was arguing with this guy, I didn't realize what the hell was going on. So it was pretty embarrassing. But when he got out, the guy had already left by the time we came back, the Raiders fan. So he had already left for the game. When I got out, I'm the only one standing there, and the Uber driver literally rolls down his window. Is there an Allen here? His voice echoing throughout the entire parking garage. And I'm just standing there like 30 seconds fresh out of his car, like, bro, ain't no damn Allen here, man. That's what, just cancel and go somewhere else. Long story short, I was there for like 5 more minutes because my Uber driver had to stop for gas. This really nice old lady. God bless her heart. I forgot what her name was. I'm sorry. But she was really nice. She thought I was going to cancel on her because she took forever. I'm like, hey, I know how it is being canceled on by passengers. It is really annoying. It's frustrating. I hate it. I'd much rather drive. If we made a commitment to each other, I'm going to pick you up. And if I'm late, I'm going to tell you I'm late, but I'm not canceling out on you unless it's something that's like against Uber rules or policy or the law. But other than that, we have a commitment. I'm going to get you. I'm going to take you to where you are safely. Done. Okay, but let's get to the comments. I know I've been delaying. Sorry about that, folks. But Jay Weaver saying, what up, player? What's going on, Jay Weaver? How you doing? Hey, Jay, go Bulls, okay? See, I can say it on the show. You can't say nothing to me here. Don't tell Johnny. D-Rock saying, hey, Don, what's going up, D-Rock? How you doing, my friend? Thank you so much for joining, being a part of the show. Chief saying, blocked Chiefs win. Chief, I'm telling you, I blocked it out of my mind too, and I only remember when I see it in highlight packages. Paybacks for Elway and Manning. You'll have to kind of refresh my memory on that. I don't know what you mean by that. I'm sorry, I'm getting old. D-Rock saying this one hurts way more. You're right, it does. By the way, Chief, thank you so much for being watching and contributing to the show. And D-Rock also saying we had it in the bag. We did. There's nothing you said that's not wrong. We had it in the bag. Sean Payton did everything he was supposed to do by the book. He called the timeout. He got his guys together. He got them riled up. The tension was high. Okay. And if you've seen every single reaction video, we all had the same reaction. Everybody. From the most loyal Broncos fan you may not know and seen on social media to Brandon Perna. I watched Brandon Perna. I watch his shows religiously. That's Good Sports. If you guys have never seen it, please go watch it. It is some of the great, funniest Broncos content you'll ever see in your life. Shout out to Brandon. If you go back on one of his shows, I've only been on his show once, not like this, but he used one of my comments on Twitter. I forgot. It was like a beatdown that we took, and I complained about it on social media, and he highlighted it in one of his highlights. So that's probably I should probably go find that clip, but that was like my one highlight of ever being close to being on That's Good Sports. I love it. But his reaction when he just kind of sank was pretty much everybody. And I think the thing that hurts us most here in Broncos country, if I can be real with you guys, is the fact that Bo Nix, from all the analysts and stuff, going into that game, was slated to have another bad game like he had against the Seahawks, like he had against Pittsburgh. And it was the total opposite. Bo Nix has found his footing. He's found his cover. Yes, he did make a couple of mistakes in the second half, but I feel that was just the Broncos kind of taking their foot off of the pedal and they kept the Chiefs in the game, which is something you never want to do, especially against a division rival. Now that, to me, is the part I don't agree with, because there is no way you can tell me that Bo Nix played excellently like he did in that first half, and then all of a sudden go back to holding the ball for too long or trying to scramble when there was nothing open and then just getting sacked. So, and then the running game was just completely, absolutely, aside from Estime, who tried his hardest, but aside from him, we literally got nothing from Javonte Williams again. So that man is playing and he's making, and I'm talking about Bo Nix here. I know that Jaden Daniels is more than likely going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. And if he does, I don't have a problem with it. However, Bo Nix is definitely trying to make some noise and get people's attention to take notice. And I would rather come down to both of those two guys than anybody else. Caleb Williams is playing like complete garbage. Not his fault entirely, but hey, there was a lot of hype of that man going into Chicago when he got drafted. And he has not lived up to it in the second half, going into the second half of the season. But again, not all his fault. Drake May, he's starting to kind of find his footing little by little. That win against Chicago was huge. But they're not always going to play a team like the Bears. And then J.J. McCarthy, unfortunately, is going to be late to the party next year. His second year going to be his rookie year. And it looks like they need him right away because Sam Darnold is starting to look like Sam Darnold of old. So to me, that vote's got to come down to between two people, and that's got to be Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix. And there's plenty of time for Bo Nix to make some noise and throw his name in that hat for Offensive Player of the Year. Offensive Rookie Player of the Year. Sorry. Johnny the Boss Baki saying, my scrot still hurts from the end of that game. Somebody want to tell Johnny the words TMI? Oh, yeah, he probably knows. He's smarter than I am. But Johnny, I don't blame you one bit. I'm pretty sure you aren't the only one with your scrot hurt. It's just a funny word. I'm sorry. But the fact that Bo Nix outplayed a multi-champion player like Patrick Mahomes was just, I feel like I need a shower again now. But the fact that he outplayed a guy like him speaks volumes. And I don't want to hear this mess that Patrick Mahomes didn't have Rashee Rice or he didn't have Isaiah Pacheco or whatever. I don't give a damn. Okay. He had Kareem Hunt. He had Travis Kelce, who was the only person that scored. And he had newly acquired DeAndre Hopkins, who was the only person on that team that literally did any damage, not named Travis Kelce. Kareem Hunt, yeah, he pushed the line a little bit, but he didn't have no like big run where he ran for a touchdown for like anything more than 50 yards, like Derrick Henry did the week before. So it's and yes, I did have the Broncos not winning this game, rightfully so. However, the fact that they were one kick away from proving me wrong, I was literally going to come on this show and just go bananas. And maybe, if I get some hands on not fireworks, because you can't like fireworks in here, but I don't know, like something like, I don't know, just something fun is what I was thinking, because there was never a time I wanted to be more wrong. Okay. And unfortunately, I wasn't. We didn't talk about this last week because we didn't get a chance to, but both Ty and I had the Broncos losing against Kansas City. But I'm telling you, and I think I can speak for Ty on this, we wouldn't mind being wrong on that. And that's for any game that we have the Broncos losing. It's the same thing. But damn it, if I can't tell you that when I think about it and I see how hard Bo Nix tried to get that first win, damn it if I don't tell you that he really, really meant it when he went up to the podium. And you could feel it in his voice. And a part of me wants to think that maybe he was probably more heartbroken about losing this game than losing against Baltimore. And the Baltimore game, that was just a thrashing. And I came on here, well, maybe not on here, but on social media, and I was pissed. Because I know that the Broncos are better than that. They certainly are. They're the team that everybody keeps overlooking. And a team that everybody can't seem, that's outside of Broncos country, by the way, that is one of those teams, just like any other team in the NFL, that, yeah, they can beat up on the bad teams, but when it comes to playing the good teams, they can't win. And that's not true. Not by a long shot. D-Rock coming in and saying Mahomes had his guys Sunday, but we had our dogs. And that's 100% right, man. Now, I will say, and this is a hypothetical, my own opinion. Somewhere in the multiverse, if you believe in it, the Broncos, if they would have traded for a guy like David Njoku or a number one wide receiver, if they would have swung for the fences, Broncos win that game. Not taking anything away from Cortland, not taking anything away from Vele, but you put one of those guys out there that stretches the Kansas City Chiefs defense like the Broncos offense did, Broncos win that game. And it doesn't have to come down to a freaking field goal. It would have came down to, can the defense stop Patrick Mahomes? Or can the Broncos offense put up so many points that the Chiefs can't catch up? And they just have to kill time. That's how valuable trades in the NFL are. And when you don't do anything at the deadline and you sit on your hands and you lose a game like that, you can't tell me that that does not leave you wondering what if. And that's a topic that I didn't hear anybody on any other podcast I listened to this past couple of days talk about. I might be wrong on that. There may have been a couple because I can't remember them off the top of my head. But I was waiting for somebody else to say it, and I didn't hear it. And I will die on that hill when I tell you guys that. Now, the Ravens game, maybe it wouldn't have been such a shellacking if they had a guy like Njoku. But, I mean, it would have been funny because, I mean, Njoku and the Browns had literally just beaten the Ravens before going into their bye week. And then to have had a chance to beat them again, it would have been beautiful. That would have been right up there with the opposite of Devontae Adams, of losing to the Steelers with the Raiders and then losing again to the Steelers with the Jets. Just the opposite. Now, I might, like I said, I might be the only person that's alone on that theory, but that's okay. Doesn't really matter. But, ladies and gentlemen, I know Johnny came on here yesterday on the Nothing Rhymes With, and he had to instill. And he had to bring back, culminate the entire spirit of Broncos country that just got separated everywhere. And Johnny's really good at that. Okay. And he just said, hey, it's kind of like what I've been telling you guys when we were questioning about this offense and is Bo Nix the guy and what the hell is Sean Payton doing? When I came on here and I said to breathe. And that's exactly what Johnny did. Sometimes I forget to take my own advice. That's just how I am spirited, you know, especially when my team loses. I don't like to see my team lose. Now, going back to the whole trade thing, yes, I know that the Broncos were limited because of what they're paying Russell Wilson to do out in Pittsburgh. Totally get it. That's more than likely why they didn't make a move. But just trading Baron Browning to the Cardinals and sitting on your hands after that, I've seen people move money around like it ain't nobody's business. Look at the Chiefs, for example. So if the Chiefs can go around and move money willy-nilly, the Broncos can too. So I really don't want to believe it's about money, although a lot of people speculate that, and it probably is. But the fact that you couldn't get a player that you wanted and then move money around at the end of the season to keep him to stay in Denver, like, come on. And you guys have heard how a lot of players were telling their agents, hey, if you're going to trade me to Washington. That made national news. Everybody named Mama was talking about that. That every player, if they were going to be traded, they want to be traded to Washington because they wanted to go play with Jane Daniels, Dan Quinn, and Cliff Kingsbury and all those other cats, which is totally fine because Washington is turning it around. So if Washington can do it with Jaden Daniels, why can't the Broncos do it with Bo Nix? And I'm asking that as an actual question. Like, why can't they do it with Bo Nix? They can do it with Bo Nix, and they will do it with Bo Nix. The question is not if they can do it, when will they do it? So I think that if Bo Nix can go out there and win that Offensive Rookie of the Year award, steal it right from under Jaden Daniels' grasp, that alone is going to convince players in the offseason going into 2025 to aspire to come to play for Denver or work or whatever. So we want to get players to have that same energy to go play in Washington to come play in Denver. But in order to do that, the Broncos have to do more than just go to toe with the bigger and badder teams. They have to beat those teams. Now the Ravens, again, that was just a complete, almost not even close type of mismatchup. And the Chiefs were really close to being a bunch of crybabies this week. They were just one block away. And there's nobody that can tell me that every single Kansas City Chiefs fan, up until that moment, was not yelling at their TVs, telling Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce to play better, to DeAndre Hopkins to play better, to Kareem Hunt to run better, to Andy Reid to call better plays. And then they win by luck. Now, again, I had to remind a lot of people over the last couple of days that the Broncos themselves have won by luck. And we've been on the other side of that, of that perspective. Have we forgotten about the Jets game? If the Jets kicker makes that kick, the Broncos lose. But Greg the Leg, Zerline, whiffs it. Broncos didn't block it. They didn't touch it. Ball just went completely on the other side. And the Broncos beat the Jets. And we talk and I'm going to say a curse word here, we talk so much shit that week, I even posted it on my TikTok. Because it felt like the best win of the season, coming off of that shutout against the Bucs the week before. Broncos were on a roll, baby. And that's exactly where I think this team is heading. Which leads into the segue against the Falcons. It's the homecoming of one Justin Simmons. You guys remember Justin Simmons, right? Who, if he was still a Bronco right now, guaranteed he would have picked off Patrick Mahomes this past weekend and possibly put Denver in a spot to put up more points through touchdown or field goal. But Justin Simmons is coming home, ladies and gentlemen, not as a Bronco, but I'm pretty sure whenever he does decide to hang up his cleats, he's going to retire a Bronco. That's just my God honest opinion. And I'm a little torn by it, if I'm being honest with you, just for the simple fact that I don't want to boo Justin Simmons. I don't. I'm really sad that the Broncos couldn't pay him what he was worth and they decided to let him walk and he tested free agency. And in my heart of hearts, I honestly believe that if he wasn't able to get a deal done with the Falcons, that he probably may have tried to maybe come back and worked on to take less money just to play football instead of sitting out an entire season and not play. But you know what's crazy? In Madden, if you start like a regular franchise, he's like the number one safety that's gone off the board right away. Every time. And I'm telling you, in a league that restarted twice, he was the first free agent off the board. People snagged him off the free agency list faster than they actually snagged him in real life. And now he's coming home as a Falcon. And to me, that part of the defense is the only part of the defense that worries me. Because Justin Simmons knows Denver. Now, the only advantage is he doesn't know Bo Nix. He knows Cortland Sutton, and I don't know if he knows Valix. I don't know. Probably not. And he knows Javante, He knows a lot of those guys on the offensive side of the ball because he's practiced against them many times, but he doesn't know Bo Nix. And that element of surprise is what I think is going to take place in precedent in beating the Falcons. Now, if you guys notice, the Falcons were supposed to wipe the floor with the Saints, just like the Broncos did a couple weeks ago, but they didn't. They actually lost, and they cost me points in my confidence pool, mind you. And they lost to New Orleans, a team with an interim head coach. Derek Carr, even though he came back, Olave wasn't there. They had a lot. Lattimore wasn't there. He got traded already. There was a fire sale going on in New Orleans. Man, sorry. And MVS was the new Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave. I guess you could put them together. The man went out there and beat Kirk Cousins, that offense. Young Ho Koo, who apparently, I don't know if he needed his glasses to kick, but missed so many kicks, and that defense. Now, I have to be careful when I say that, ladies and gentlemen, because that could be a trap game. It honestly can. However, I don't think it's going to be a trap game because the Broncos are going to come home pissed. And I was there along with my soon-to-be co-host Bronco Libre. We were both there against the Carolina game, and they played the Carolina Panthers tough. They took no crap from them, and they didn't let them off the hook, and they didn't care that they were a terrible team. Yes, the Broncos made mistakes in that game, but they also didn't take their foot off the pedal, and they made sure that the Broncos kept that lead. And Kirk Cousins, I thought he was going to have the NFC South in total control. You know, especially with Baker Mayfield missing his top two guys. The Panthers kind of in a resurgence. Well, and the Saints being the Saints, like the NFC South isn't exactly 100% competitive. The Falcons are still on paper better than all those teams, even better than the Bucs, but that's all because he doesn't have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Mike Evans is going to come back, but Chris Godwin's out for the season. So Kirk Cousins is going to come to Denver and face a pissed off Broncos defense. He's going to face a pissed off JFM, a pissed off Zach Allen, a definitely pissed off Pat Surtain II, a pissed off Riley Moss. Everybody on that defense is going to be pissed. Everybody on the Broncos offense is going to be pissed. And I have a feeling that they're going to take it out on the Falcons. And not even a guy like Justin Simmons can do very much to anything about it, as good as he is. But that secondary, that Falcon secondary, is very suspect. And this Broncos offense, if they can do what they did against Kansas City in the first half, but do it for 2 whole halves and keep Kirk Chains at bay and keep them locked up, man. After this game, the Broncos, I think their next hardest game is probably going to be against the Chargers. And then after that, it's not, I don't want to say smooth sailing, but then they face the Raiders again. Then they face the Colts. And then after the Chargers, I think their next hardest game is against the Bengals towards the end of the season. Week 17, if I'm not mistaken, in Cincinnati. And that's going to be their next tough game, especially week 17, when that week decides a lot of final placements for most teams in terms of postseason. So, can the Broncos beat the Falcons? Yes, they can. Will they beat the Falcons? Yes, they will. And there's no denying it that they're definitely going to do it. You've heard it here first. Johnny the Boss Baki saying Broncos going to walk out a mile high this Sunday, picking Falcon feathers out of their teeth. Viva los Broncos. So for those of you who don't know, I guess I might as well tell you now. Bronco Libre and I have come together and we created a show called Viva los Broncos. Viva los Broncos. Broncos, I keep saying in different languages. I don't know why. Viva los Broncos is going to be an all Spanish Broncos talk show or podcast. I'm sorry, not talk show, podcast. And the amazing thing about this is that Bronco Libre and I are literally starting from the ground up. Like Bronco Libre has been doing his best to promote it and using all of his connections, and he has more influence in the Latino community in terms of through football than I do. I have very little to none. So I only tell anybody that can understand me in Spanish, really, and hope that they will tune in and watch, even if they're not into football. I don't care. Hey, pon atención, cabrón, you know? But hopefully we hope to turn around, have a good showing, and it turns out to be a very positive experience. Great experience for both networks on Orange and Blue and MHRT. And if you're unable to join us, that's totally fine because you won't be able to understand a single word Bronco Libre and I are saying. That's totally fine. But if you guys can help us spread the word to any Latino football members you guys may know out in Broncos country, please feel free to hit that like button, a notification on the Orange Blue Network so you get able to know when it is that the show will go live and premiere. Okay. So, and if you just want to come by and show your support real quick, that's also totally respectable. D-Rock saying, I'm going to tune in, bro. Thank you, D-Rock. Your support through all of the shows here on both networks has been amazing, my friend. Thank you so much. But going back to the topic at hand, which is the guess, both Ty and I were split on this. I had the Broncos losing this game against the Falcons, and Ty had the Broncos winning that game. So it is kind of crazy when you really think about it, because one of us is going to be right. Like, again, this is another one of those cases where I hope I'm wrong, and I hope Ty is right. You know, because this last week we were both wrong, or no, both right, but we didn't want to be right. We wanted to be wrong. That's so confusing. Now, I can understand why some people would think this is a trap game just because it's Kirk Cousins, and Kirk Cousins has been a roller coaster as of late. Like, there are days where he comes out and he looks like the Kirk Cousins of old, and there are days where he comes out and he looks like Kirk Cousins from week 1 against the Steelers. So I have no idea which type of Kirk Cousins we're going to get this week. I'm really hoping it's the latter. I will say, though, I do not envy Kirk Cousins at all because, again, that entire Falcons team is going to come in and play a really pissed off Broncos team at home. So the momentum is in Denver's favor. Every time the Broncos play at Mile High, their momentum is in their favor. And not just because of the 5280, just for Broncos country, being out there and supporting the team, refilling them with the energy that I felt when I was there a couple weeks ago. When I tell you that I wish I had season tickets like Bronco Libre, it'd be an understatement. I thought about maybe signing up because I figured by the time they chose me, because I'm pretty sure it's a long ass waiting list. And I figured, hey, by the time they choose me, maybe I'll have enough money where I can actually afford it, you know. But I've always been afraid, like, what if it's next year and it's like, hey, you're up for Broncos tickets? Like, man, I don't have that kind of money. And I don't even live in Denver. So I can't afford. I wish I could fly out to Denver every weekend. That'd be amazing. Well, maybe not every weekend, maybe every other weekend. I don't know. But Johnny the Boss jumping in, he's saying Kirk Cousins struggles under heavy pressure. And Huadon is number 1 in pressure in the league. Take a minute. I'll wait. I want to take a guess and guess that you're guessing that I'm going to guess that I'm going to guess what you're guessing, because if I'm guessing what you're guessing, then I have to guess what you're guessing. And if we don't get it wrong, then I guess wrong and you guess right. So if I guess right and you guess wrong, am I wrong or do you guess right? I'm going to say Zach Allen. It's got to be Zach Allen because my boy has been putting up Aaron Donald-like numbers from a couple years ago. I read that article that you guys shared in the group chat. Zach Allen has been a beast. Yeah, see, I was right. Zach Allen has been a mother-loving beast on that defensive line. And if next year, there's just something about Jones or that I'm just not kind of like feeling in that defensive line, I think it's time for an upgrade. If they can go out and get somebody of a Zach Allen like caliber or draft somebody as a rookie in development to be like Zach Allen, whoo. Oh, you meant the Broncos in general? Well, yeah, they are. I mean, they're the freaking Broncos. Pass rushing is what Broncos players do, you know? Uh, or really good at, I should say. Really good at. And with the extension to Jonathan Cooper and Baron Browning catching a flight out to Arizona, I think the Broncos will be in good hands. Now, they are going to need some reinforcement, definitely, going into the offseason and to probably fill any gaps in case any players decide to leave or they just get traded or what. Well, not traded. Okay. Well, maybe, yeah, because it does start over. If they don't want to be Broncos anymore or they're not going to be Broncos anymore, just to fill in those gaps. Just for the simple fact that I don't think the Broncos are going to be in a high draft spot unless they trade up to one. That's the only way. But ladies and gentlemen, I am here to tell you before we go into early segment of Broncos overtime, the Broncos are definitely favored to win this game. Again, I have listen to me when I tell you this, come here, look at me. Broncos are going to win this game. No ifs, no ands, no buts. If you're into the whole sportsbook stuff, bet on Denver. Don't go betting your life savings because if I'm wrong, I don't want you to come after me. But if you got a couple of bucks to spare after you get paid and make sure your bills are paid first before you go betting. But the Broncos are definitely going to win this game. The Falcons are going to get trampled. They are going to be the trampoline that the Broncos are going to jump off and go straight up in the atmosphere to. And these boys are going to make some noise. They're going to rattle some cages. And they're going to put their name and say, hey, man, we back. And just because they get a wild card spot, it's not going to be one of those, oh, they just made it because of the extra spot. No, damn that. Okay, these boys are here because they're good enough to be here, not because they got lucky to be here. And I'm talking about the postseason. Because ever since they added that extra playoff spot, that's all we've been hearing. A lot of teams that, they just there because they barely made it. They just got lucky. And then they're the first ones to bounce out. No, sir. Not going to happen with this team. This team's going to work their ass off to say, hey, we got here because we deserve to be here. And they're going to go as far as Bo Nix and that offense and that defense can take them. And it may not be Super Bowl. I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke up anybody's keister. But damn it to hell if I don't tell you that I believe these boys have that belief that they can get there. And I think that they can too. And hopefully I'm right about that. And if I'm wrong, you can blame Johnny. I love picking on Johnny. It's fun. It's the best part of the show. But speaking of the best part of the show, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go into a segment. I still don't have a transition for it. I do apologize. I'm actually trying to learn how to make transitions so I don't have to keep bothering Johnny for it. But if you guys notice, I'm not really good at making stuff. If you've seen the logo before, Johnny made the really cool one you see in the corner. Mine just look like the free version of Capture, Capo, whatever that app that Johnny uses. I can't remember. But I am not the best with technology. Unfortunately, I'm old. So just be lucky I know how to turn my tablet on and off, or my phone for that matter. But ladies and gentlemen, this is Broncos Talk OT. If you haven't heard or seen this part of the show before, I'm going to go over all the picks for this weekend's games. starting from the Thursday night game all the way to the Monday night game. It may or may not be Broncos related. I try to find some relevance to it, although I haven't been doing the best at that. But I figured that I'd like to talk to you guys about other things going on in football, not just Broncos in general. Just to let you know that I'm not that old or one-sided, I guess I should say. So, unfortunately, I forgot to have it ready up before we started. So if you see me looking at my phone, it's not because I'm doing anything else. It's just because I'm reading what the teams are for the week. So, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. The first game tomorrow night, Thursday Night Football, Washington at Philadelphia. Now, not to take anything away from Washington, they went toe-to-toe with Pittsburgh, and they fared a lot better. And I know you guys are not going to hate when I say this. They fared a lot better than the Broncos did, even though the Broncos kept it close. But unfortunately, they weren't able to get that win. Either team wasn't able to get that win against Pittsburgh. Now, Washington did make a lot of mistakes in that game. And unfortunately, they weren't able to come back from it. But, kudos to Russell Wilson. I know a lot of people in Broncos country don't like Russell, or they hate Russell, or they just don't like him in general. But I'm glad to see he's doing good. I really am. Don't get me wrong. I love Bo Nix. I love what Bo Nix is doing in Denver. And I don't even know if we actually answered the question of the prophecy now that I think about it, just for the simple fact that I suck at this sometimes. But to answer the question, yes, Bo Nix has filled the prophecy. He is the chosen one to lead Denver to the promised land. No buts, no buts, no ifs, ands, or buts. Sean Payton made the right choice. And if you don't believe me, look at who the Raiders got after Denver. Nothing to take away from Brock Bowers, but look where the Raiders are at now. You mean to tell me if the Raiders had a time machine, then they could go back in time to the draft, that they wouldn't find a way to jump ahead of Denver and take Bo Nix? Not a flipping chance. But Washington, as good as that offense is, I think that they'll do some damage. But there's just something about the Eagles at home, and the Eagles have kind of found their resurgence. And I don't know if this Vic Fangio stat is still with him, but I think he has an advantage over rookie quarterbacks, if I'm not mistaken. And that Fangio defense takes time to take a hold, and I think that they found it. No lie, I think that they will. I don't think that the Eagles are going to roll over the Commanders like the Eagles did against the Cowboys, but then again, the Cowboys they're a shell of their former self. So, but I think that the Eagles are going to do enough to take that game. So I'm going to take the Eagles in that game against Washington. I think Washington drops that. And the Eagles, if they do win it, I don't think it's going to be a rollout. If anything, it'll probably be maybe like a touchdown, maybe even a field goal. Maybe the Commanders keep it interesting. But then again, that's their first matchup. It'll be the first time they see a Jaden Daniels offense. And it'll be the first time Jaden Daniels sees a Philadelphia Eagles defense. So it's going to be interesting. And it'll probably be one of the better games on Thursday Night Football. And it's definitely going to make it watch. Well, it depends when they play again. If it's anything in Week 18, probably not. The first Sunday night game, the Green Bay Packers over the Bay. Look at me. Look at me. I am the captain now. That's the vibe I'm getting from this game. I mean, how much time do you guys want to spend talking about this? Because I could talk about the Bears all damn day. Living in Chicago, it gives me that advantage where all I hear about is the Bears. And I had a coworker today ask me, what's wrong with the Bears? And I literally looked at him and I said, how much time you got? Because my lunch break is only 30 minutes. Well, let's start with the Bears first. The Packers are coming. Actually, no. No, wait. Yeah, actually, let's start with the Bears. The Bears just fired their offensive coordinator, and Shane Waldron. Now, the fact that he was let go by, who was he with? Seattle, right? Yeah, he was with Seattle. Then he came to Chicago. The fact that the Raiders fired Luke Getsy almost the same time as they fired Shane Waldron because Luke Getsy's offense was garbage, and apparently nobody in Las Vegas saw that when he was with Chicago. It's hysterical. And Shane Waldron just coming in and just ruining. Now, the Bears have a lot of issues going on. Okay. Their offensive line is one of, if not the worst in the league. So, unfortunately, that's what Caleb has got working for him. However, that was not Caleb's problem to begin with. That offensive line issue has started since Justin Fields was there. So, the fact that the Bears GM, Ryan Poles, who living in Chicago, I have friends that love Ryan Poles, and I have friends that hate Ryan Poles. And the people that hate Ryan Poles is bigger than the people that love Ryan Poles and feel that Ryan Poles is not doing a very good job. And I agree. Now, Caleb was supposed to come in and be this prodigy who, damn the offensive line problems, the Bears, or Caleb Williams, was good enough to get the Bears over that hump and get them to the promised land while Chicago figures out their offensive line problems. And for the first half of the season, that looked like it was true. I mean, the Rams, or the Bears beat the Rams, they beat the Panthers, and they beat the Jaguars. 3 of the worst teams in the NFL. Well, the Rams were bad because they weren't fully healthy. But Panthers and the Jaguars were 2 of the worst teams in the NFL. And it was supposed to be a cakewalk playing New England, who was also one of the worst teams in the NFL. And they lost. Bad. So bad that Bears media on TikTok was all over. It was trending. I saw so many people leaving that place. I saw it live, people just walking out. Oh man. Like, there's so many issues with the Bears going on, and it's just like the columns that they were trying to rebuild have started to crumble again. And this problem goes way, way farther than blaming your offensive coordinator. It starts with the coaching. It starts with the drafting that Ryan Poles has made. If you don't reinforce that offensive line, it doesn't matter who you have back there. They are going to get killed. I think I wish I could tell you that and tell you that the Bears have seen that, but knowing what they had before and going out and getting another good quarterback like Caleb Williams and seeing him get killed as a Broncos fan is just giving me Justin Fields vibes. And that's just the God honest truth. And they're going up against the Packers, their first divisional game. And the Packers are coming off of a bye. Whatever little injuries they had before, they're more likely going to be feeling a whole lot better. So that bye week came in just in time. So I don't know which version of Jordan Love we're going to get, because Jordan Love has been kind of a roller coaster-ish like lately. But when that guy gets going, whoo. And even though Aaron Rodgers isn't in Green Bay anymore, like, the Packers still have the Bears number. So I expect this to be a steamroll on all aspects of the ball. You know, the Bears defense is good, but the best way to you beat a good or great defense is you wear them the hell out. And that's exactly what a lot of teams have been playing to beat the Bears. Just wear that defense out. So I'm going to give that to the Green Bay Packers. Jacksonville versus Detroit. Now, I don't want to say that's a trap game, but the fact that the Jaguars almost beat the Vikings in a non-touchdown game and the Vikings won by field goals and I think a safety, if I'm not mistaken. The Jaguars are just bad. they are literally the worst team this week because the Panthers and the Giants have a bye week. And, well, I guess you can throw New England in there too, but they beat the Bears, so they're riding a 3-7 high. So I'm not going to take anything from them. But there's no way in hell the only way they beat the Lions is if the Lions bring out their second starters and it's like a preseason game. It's the only way the Jacksonville Jaguars won this game. Even though this past Sunday Night Football game, Jared Goff threw for 5 interceptions, which is something you don't see that's in Madden, and still wins the game with a field goal made by this. It's like if this is the field post, the ball just kind of went like this, like it probably scraped or that it was like whatever the smallest measurement is of space between the ball and the upright. It just went straight in. Oh, it was amazing. And it was great football to see. But the Lions are definitely going to steamroll Jacksonville because that's just what they do to bad teams. And if you don't believe me, go ask Tennessee. See if they're still over the 50-point whopper they got put on them a couple weeks ago. So Lions for that one. The Raiders and the Dolphins. Man, I don't know if the Rams this past Monday Night Football game, they were just having a bad day at the office, especially playing at home. But that Miami defense, whoo, man, they were going at it back and forth, boy. And the Dolphins defense kind of looked like the defense of old when Fangio was there, if I'm not mistaken. So, and then again, I mean, I might have to take back what I just said about Jacksonville because I thought Jacksonville was bad. The Raiders are bad, and they're coming off of a bye week. And if I'm not mistaken, they're sticking with Gardner Minshew. I don't know why I say Garden. Gardner Minshew is going to be starting. I don't think Aiden O'Connell's cleared to play yet. I think he's still dealing with that thumb injury. But then again, either one of those guys, man, if that Miami Dolphins pass rush comes to play like it did against the Raiders, man, it doesn't matter who's back there. There's no more Devontae. The Raiders have a couple of good key defensive players who I'll be honest with you, I'll be surprised if they stick around next year if they don't move around. I thought Max Crosby was going to be traded before the deadline, to be honest with you. But like that the Raiders are more than likely going to get steamrolled. Tua seems to be back. If they can get A-Chain and Waddle and Tyreek Hill going, it's another blowout. So you could see 2 blowout games in the Jags and the Raiders. But I'm going to give Miami that game. The Rams versus the Patriots. Now, I got to imagine that Los Angeles going to New England, playing in cold weather, that the Rams are going to be playing pretty pissed off. And it was probably like the first game that I seen Matthew Stafford just play out of sync. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't think the Rams scored a single touchdown Monday night. I think it was all field goals, if I'm not mistaken. So they're going to go in there. Excuse me. The Rams are with, go put some respect on their name. And New England, coming off of that big win against the Bears, Drake May he seems to play better at home. And that Rams defense, they held their own they tried to hold their own against Miami, but as good as that defense tried to play, the offense just couldn't match it, which is kind of weird because usually the Rams offense is the shinier part instead of the defense. But the important thing is that I think this game will be close, to be honest with you. I don't expect it to be a blowout by both sides. But I have to choose one here. So I think that the Rams bounce back and I think they win this game, but I don't think it's going to be by like a big margin. It'll probably be like a field goal difference type of thing. If New England gets another win, then they're going to start making some noise in, saying, hey, we might be down, but we're not out of it yet. Like they're not going quietly into the night type of thing. And Drake May can only get better because he definitely can't get worse. So I'm going to give the Rams the win on that one. Browns versus the Saints. Oh, man, you know what? The Browns are coming off of their bye week. Famous Jameis coming in. I guess you can say this is a revenge game for Famous Jameis since he did play in New Orleans for a while, even though he was the backup. He wasn't the starter. But Famous Jameis versus Derek Carr. I mean, the Saints did pull out a stunner against the Falcons last week, and that was a division game. So, but the Browns defense, I think, is good enough to keep them afloat. Nothing against MVS. I think he's pretty good, but unless Alvin Kamara gets going, but I think the Browns defense can do just enough to win that game. If Famous Jameis can limit the turnovers, which he's pretty much known for his whole career, I think that the Browns can win that one. So I'm going to go with the Browns on that one to come over to win over the Saints. I think the Saints kind of come back to earth in terms of being the Saints that we know. The Ravens versus the Steelers. That's going to be a great game. That's probably going to be game of the week, if I'm being honest with you, just for the simple fact that the Ravens are 7-3, the Steelers are 7-2, and yeah, so it's going to be interesting. I mean, it's really hard. I've been thinking about that game all day, like to try to pick a winner. The Ravens secondary is just so suspect. It's a damn shame that the Broncos weren't able to take advantage of it 2 weeks ago, um, like the Bengals did, and like a lot of other teams have. But I it's the Ravens offense versus the Steelers defense in terms of trying to figure out, because I think Russell Wilson can do just enough to get a win to beat that secondary, because that moon ball that he throws is really good. And when him and Pickens connect or Freiermuth, whew, but I think that I'm going to give it to the Steelers on this one. I think the Steelers are going to do just enough to beat the Ravens round one and just kind of knock them on their toes. The Ravens play a whole lot better at home in division games, in my opinion. And not just because it's like an obvious thing, but just for the simple fact that they feed off of the energy more, kind of like the Broncos do at home, at Mile High. So I think that Russell Wilson's going to do just enough to beat the Ravens. Vikings versus the Titans. I think the Vikings bounce back. The Titans are 2-7. Will Levis isn't anything to be saying he's extraordinarily good at. I think the Brian Flores defense continues to roll. Even if Sam Darnold has another crappy game like he did against Jacksonville, I think he does just enough to kind of get the win, as long as he doesn't keep throwing turnovers, because those turnovers last week could have been really bad if that was Trevor Lawrence out there and not Mac Jones for Jacksonville. So I'm going to give it to Minnesota on that one to beat Tennessee, even if it is at home. Colts versus the Jets. Anthony, I think I would have been better picking the Colts if it was Joe Flacco starting again, but they've already switched. They already announced that Anthony Richardson is going to take the helm for going forward as well. So no more of this going back and forth, back and forth. I think they've seen enough out of Joe Flacco, and they're only going to keep him in case of an emergency, which sucks because that's the 2023 comeback player of the year. But last week, he didn't play like a comeback player of the year. He played like somebody who literally hasn't played in years. So, and it sucks because it would have been the Joe Flacco revenge game. Flacco versus the team he used to play for the Broncos. I was really looking forward to that. But I think I'm going to have to give it to the Jets on this one. Just for some, I like to think that, I mean, the whole thing with the Jets and the Cardinals last week, that should have been a cakewalk for the Jets. But then, man, they folded. They honestly folded. And the only thing that's kind of keeping me from picking the Jets confidently is the fact that the Colts have Anthony Richardson, Jonathan Taylor. And Jonathan Taylor, that defense has taken a huge step back since Robert Saleh was let go. So Robert Taylor can really run that defense down. But I'm going to say that the Jets win this one just for the simple fact that the Colts are with Richardson are a little bit more weaker than with Joe Flacco. That's just my personal opinion. But if the Colts win, I wouldn't be surprised. I think I'd be more surprised if the Jets won. But if I had to pick, I think the Jets are going to win just for the simple fact that and Aaron Rodgers seems to play a little bit better at MetLife than he does on the road. Falcons versus Broncos. We already talked about it. Go Broncos, always and forever. Seahawks and 49ers. I think this is their second matchup, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. This is another division game. Seahawks are coming off of their bye. They're probably hoping to have DK Metcalf back healthy, but the Niners got McCaffrey back. If McCaffrey wasn't playing, I'd be a little more confident in picking Seattle. But there's just something about Geno Smith not playing to his full potential. You know about that whole thing? Was it last year when he was like, they wrote me out, but I never wrote back type of thing? So it's like, hey, somebody's writing to you, man. There's something going on with Seattle for them to be 4-5. But again, the 49ers, they do have a lot of key injuries still. Unfortunately, injuries are a part of the game, but McCaffrey's back. He didn't look like the McCaffrey of old last week, but he's just enough to, distract the opposing defenses to pay attention to him. And it could be another big game for Jawan Jennings. So I'm going to take the 49ers. And again, the 49ers are one of those teams that just, Seattle right now is cold weather, rainy weather. And 49ers weather is going to be very nice. So I'm going to take the 49ers in that one. Kansas City versus Buffalo. Now, I'm still surprised that this game wasn't flexed for the Sunday Night Football game. I honestly am surprised. I thought this was going to be flexed right away. Not to take anything away from the Bengals and Chargers, but I don't know. I just think that there's going to be more eyes on this game than there will be Bengals and Chargers game, which is the actual Sunday Night Football game. Or maybe it wasn't in time, because I think you have to do it within 2 weeks to flex, so that way they can promote it and all that stuff. But if the Chiefs came to a field goal to losing, then the Bills are good enough to beat Kansas City, especially at Buffalo. Now, the Bills are going to probably be without Amari Cooper and Keon Coleman, which is two big weapons for Josh Allen, but that's never stopped him before. We thought that Josh Allen was going to be terrible without Stephon Diggs going into the season, and the Bills are 8-2. And their only biggest terrible loss was against the Ravens. That's just at the hands of what the Broncos suffered. Same thing. So even if he doesn't have those guys, Josh Allen is able to make the best of do with what he has with James Cook. If he has Kincaid back, even better. Otherwise, Dawson Knox is a really good, reliable tight end. They pretty much, I think they still have Curtis Samuel, if I'm not mistaken, and Von Miller. Patrick Mahomes is going to run into Von Miller, and I hope Von Miller runs into him many damn times. Because if it's one thing Von loves to do, is he loves sagging those AFC West quarterbacks. That's going to feel like old times, and he's probably going to forget which color jersey he has on when he picks himself off from a Patrick Mahomes sack. So go Bills, go. We're all Buffalo Bills fans this weekend. And then the Sunday Night Football game, the Bengals versus the Chargers. But Chargers are 6-3, Bengals are 4-6. Although the Bengals record doesn't really make it look like they're 4-6, it should be more like 5-4, if I'm being honest with you, because there were 2 games that they should have won and they just couldn't pull the trigger. But I think the Bengals, are going to win. The Chargers defense has been playing really tough. I'm not going to take away anything. Harbaugh has really done a whole lot better with that team. Like I stated in my offseason predictions, he's been really doing good by that team. However, I don't think that game might be close. It might be a shootout. Matter of fact, if the Bengals defense can't contain, what's his name, McCaskey, the rookie wide receiver from the Chargers. I can't think of his name. Him and the running back. I mean, the Chargers have some offensive weapons there. It's just that they just have to get it going. Sometimes Justin Herbert can kind of get stuck, be a stick in the mud, and just get stuck and not be able to do anything, But if he can get it going, they can win it. But I think the Bengals are due for an upset, and I'm going to take the Bengals on this one, just for the simple fact that you guys have heard me say before, I don't ever usually pick AFC rivals to win, especially in this case. It'll be I'll feel a whole lot better about that pick if the Bengals get back T. Higgins. Although Andre Alcivas has been a really good underrated wide receiver, especially in fantasy. But it's just the Bengals defense that's kind of suspect, that kind of worries me, and not being able to force turnovers or interceptions or punts back to the Bengals. And the Bengals kind of start cold sometimes, and then they get hot. And sometimes they start hot and get cold. So they've been kind of unreliant as of late. Like only when they play the Ravens is when the Bengals look unbeatable, like world beaters. Especially, Jamar Chase put up 50-something points in fantasy last week. Anybody that had him didn't really have to do anything else. It was a guaranteed win. Crazy. And then finally, ladies and gentlemen, the Texans versus the Cowboys, the battle for the big state of Texas. A couple weeks ago, that would have been a definitely great game, but without Dak Prescott, and you're throwing in Cooper Rush or Trey Lance, even with CeeDee Lamb, man, the Texans are going to run all over the Cowboys. I think there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to run over the Cowboys. Don't be surprised if the Cowboys don't win another game going forward that's not Week 18. That's just the God honest truth with it. Even if it is at Jerry World, that doesn't make a damn difference. The sun is out to get everybody, especially Cowboys players. That's an embarrassing thing to say. I'm sorry. But especially if Nico Collins comes back this week, they're definitely going to run all over the Cowboys. And it sucks. It really does. Because I only like Micah Parsons. But even a guy like him is having trouble being faithful to the white and blue. But I don't blame him one bit. And honestly, I'm surprised he wasn't traded. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for today's show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. To all of our viewers watching us here at the moment. I see all you guys here in the chat. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for watching. Again, if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can follow me at a 6'10" Mexican. I'm always down and happy to talk about any and all things football. If you were unable to join us live, that is okay. Shout out to my boy, Chris Hernandez, who is a loyal listener to the show. And I promise you, one of these days, going to work out a schedule to have him come here on the show and join me and Ty and talk to you all about Broncos football. If you've never met him, he's great. Great guy to talk to. And without his support, I can honestly tell you I'd still be here. That's just being 100% with you guys. But make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, 5-star ratings, wherever it is you guys get your podcast from, because this show broadcasts from all over the podcast world. Leave a great review. Share it to us on that on social media so I can see it and tag me in it. So I know that you guys are enjoying the content that we are producing. And if you don't know who we are, then we are the Orange and Blue Network. So make sure you subscribe, share, comment, and like. Ladies and gentlemen, there are a lot of great shows here on the Orange and Blue Network. We have the Nothing Rhymes with Orange and Blue, Nothing Rhymes with Orange and Blue with Johnny Baki and Isaiah Henderson. And I know what you're thinking. We're so tired of seeing Johnny Baki, but that's too freaking bad. His face is plastered all over the place. You can't help it. You can't help but love the man. He's amazing. We have the Fresh Squeeze. We have the pre-game and the post-game Buck Your Feelings show every single game day. Also, make sure you follow us on the MHRT network. Mundungus is cool, and he loves Harry Potter. Make sure you comment and subscribe and share and like on all of their shows. They have a lot of great shows. They have The Neighborhood. They have the Wild Wild West podcast. They have the Mainly podcast. They have so many great shows. Ladies and gentlemen, the beautiful thing about being able to sit here and talk to you guys here is that even if I'm not your cup of tea because you don't like this face and you can blame Johnny for it, or you don't like any of the audio setup, that's perfectly fine. There are plenty of guys and shows out there that if this is not your cup of tea, they're more informative, they're better looking, they're this and that. Whatever it is you guys are searching for, somebody on this platform or network has it. I guarantee you. So make sure you guys go out and find it. Make sure you let them know that you enjoy the content that is being provided to you, because we, in order to continue to flourish and be better, we feed off of you like you feed off of us. It's a back and forth. You feed me, you feed me, you feed you. So the communication has to stay forward to make sure that the content that is being provided to you is always clear and out in the open. So that way we know that the job we're doing is very much well liked and respected by all of you guys out there in Broncos country. And we're very thankful for it, by the way. We're thankful for every subscriber and like and commenter that we see in the chat every single week. Again, ladies and gentlemen, the Viva Los Broncos podcast will be going live next Friday. The time is still to be decided, so please make sure you hit up all of the Orange and Blue Network social medias so you get live notification for when that show goes on the air. Again, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Adan Diaz, and this has been Broncos Talk here on the Orange and Blue Network. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, have a good night, good evening. Again, make sure you guys go out and support all forms of Broncos media out there, whether it's podcasts, articles, anything social media related to Broncos. Show your support. It is greatly appreciated. I know I talk too much, and I don't care. It's what I do for a living. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, have a good night, good day. Enjoy the rest of your day whenever it is to listen to. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, let's go Broncos!